Hi, in this video I'll show you how I made this flip card using Stampin' Up products, and also how I made this envelope using Stampin' Up's new envelope punch board. This card measures 4 inches by 4¼ inches. The envelope is actually for a card that's 4 by 4½, but as you can see it fits really well. You can actually get 4 of these cards from a 12 by 12 sheet of cardstock. The cardstock that I start out with is 4 inches by 8 inches, so you can get 4 cards from a 12 by 12 piece, and then you just have a 4 by 4 piece left over. So I have my piece of 4 by 8 Whisper White cardstock, and I'm using Stampin' Up's new Label Card Framelits dies to cut out the base, and then I also use these two pieces that coordinate. All these pieces come in a set with the Label Card Framelits die. For this card I'm actually going to change it up a little bit and use a different pattern from the same Designer Series paper set. This is from the Sweater Weather DSP, and I have 2 pieces. Each piece measures 2 inches by 3 7/8 inches. I want to adhere one panel before I cut it out. So what I'm going to do is I'm only going to put adhesive on 3 sides of this piece of DSP. So I only put adhesive here, here, and here. I did not put adhesive here because I don't want it to stick to this area. So I'm going to line up my card base in the Framelits die, and that way I can see exactly where my DSP is going to go. And I don't want to get it too close to the edge. So now I can take it off and I can adhere my piece of DSP. So now that I have my DSP adhered, I'm ready to put it through the Big Shot. I have my magnetic plate, and I'm going to put a cutting pad on it. When I put my cardstock in the Framelits die, I put it in, but this side is on top. So I'm going to lay it down. I'm just going to make it flush with the edges of the Framelits die. And then I'm not going to cover the entire framelits. I'm only going to cover the parts that I want cut. So I'm not going to cover this piece right here because I'm not going to cut it and I don't really want the fold there. So I'm going to run this through, and it's going to be kind of hard to run through. It's very tight. So this is what we get when we run it through the Big Shot. This piece is not adhered, which is great. Now we want to fold on the score lines, so we can fold on this score line and this score line. So now this is what we have. And now what we want to do is take this right edge and make it flush with this right edge of our fold line. So just fold it, and then you're going to take your bone folder. Okay, now we're ready to adhere our other piece of DSP, Designer Series paper. So now all we need to do is finish it off by cutting out the label and the high die cut. So I'm bringing out the Sizzix Big Shot die cutting machine again, and I have my magnetic plate and my cutting pad, and now I want to cut out the label, and I've tried cutting out the label and the high together, but the high doesn't get cut very well when you put them both in together, so I prefer to do it separately. If it doesn't cut very well the first time, you can always run it through again because it's easy to find the edge of your paper that was cut and kind of fit the framelit on there again. So we have our first label die cut, and now I just want to position the high framelit on here. And cut that out separately. And when you're taking this die out, sometimes it's a little bit challenging to get. You have to take it out carefully or else you might rip some parts of it. And I like to take my fingernail, if you do have fingernails, then you can take it out a little bit more easily that way by just punching it out. If you don't have fingernails, you can always use a cutting blade to help it out. So now I have my high die cut on here. Now I'm ready to cut the other label that will go on the inside. Okay, so now that I have my die cut pieces ready, I can go ahead and start adhering them. I'm going to just adhere this piece to the front, and then I'm going to open it up and adhere this piece and use the high that we die cut from the front part to paste it on inside. What I use is a combination of adhesive. I use my snail adhesive runner, and then for the kind of intricate parts I use my Tombow Mono Multi-Glue. And on the inside, I'm just going to use tape runner for this chocolate chip piece of cardstock. And then I'm just going to use my Tombow Mono Multi-Glue for the high part. One of the things I like about the Tombow Mono Multi-Glue is that you can kind of reposition it, like slide it around on your card right before it dries. It does dry pretty quickly though, about 15 seconds is usually what I give it. And then I'm going to take a rhinestone and dot the eye on the front and the inside. And there you go, there's our card. Now that I'm finished with the card, I'm going to create an envelope to fit it. This envelope measures 4 3/4 by 4 1/2, and the card fits in it pretty well. So I'm going to look on my board, and my card measures 4 by 4 1/4, but under the card size, I'm actually just going to get it really close. I'm going to do the 4 by 4 1/2 because there is no 4 by 4 1/4. So what I want is my paper size should be 7 1/4 by 7 1/4, and I'm going to only measure it once, line it up with the 3 1/2 mark. Only the first time. I actually made a mistake on my very first envelope using this board because I did not read the directions, and my corner punches were a little bit off. So I'm going to line it up here with a 3 1/2 mark, just this edge of my paper, and I'm going to punch it, and then I'm going to use the scoring tool that came with it, or any bone folder, and I'm just going to find that edge and make that score line that's right here. So now I want to turn it 90 degrees, and I want to line that score line up. I don't want to pay attention to the ruler anymore. I want to line that score line up with this little plastic piece that comes out. So this is my score line right here, and it lines up right with this piece that comes out. And I'm going to find that score line again. Basically just butt it right up against this right part of the plastic, and then punch it. Line up my score line again, score it, punch it, line up my score line again, score it, punch it. Now that I'm done with the corners and the fold lines, I can turn my tool around and I can round my corners. This tool is actually the same one that We Are Memory Keepers makes. In fact, I believe this one was manufactured by We Are Memory Keepers, but it's sold by Stampin Up. I actually want this pattern to be on the outside of the card. So now I have the folds. I'm just going to use my snail adhesive. And now I have a beautiful envelope to fit my card. Thank you for watching this video.